And welcome back for another live stream. Again, we're looking at writing task 2, which is the same for academic and general IELTS. I'm just mentioning that because someone asked last week. So yeah, task 2 is the same. So this lesson is relevant for all IELTS test takers. So as always, we will go through, well, basically, I'll show you a question. You will put together paraphrase, main ideas, how you would develop it, and then I will give you feedback on what you've done well, what mistakes you've made, and what things you need to do, what things you need to focus on to improve your score. So everybody will have one area that's lower than the rest, and that's basically what you should focus on. So find out your biggest weakness, focus on that. I have a set of lessons that I want to share with you here. There's one link for YouTube, one link for Facebook. They're the same lessons, but basically it's a playlist of exactly how to write a task 2 essay. So if you haven't already completed those, if you're not already aware of how to write a task 2 essay, you can go through those. Hi Samika, good to see you here again. Welcome back. So that's basically it. I'll show you a question. We'll go through it together. And at the end of the video, I will share a sample answer with you. So I'll have that for you at the end. I don't want to share it now because I'm worried that if you look at it, you'll have the same main ideas as I had, and it's better for you to, generate your own ideas and make your own mistakes. Hi Ayush, good to see you here again. Maravik, all the regulars are here. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to show you a question, and what I want you to do now is to write the paraphrase for that question. Okay, so here is your question, and I want you to write the paraphrase. Write the paraphrase into the comments and post your paraphrase in the comments, and then I'll pull it up on screen and give you some feedback. If anybody is unsure what a paraphrase is, you will find out in those lessons, but you can ask me as well. So I'm going to assume everybody knows, but if you don't, please feel free to ask. Hi, Kamal. Let's see. Okay, so I'll just wait, let's say another minute. If I don't start getting some paraphrases, what I can do is I can just share the paraphrase that I've written for this answer, for this question, and we can move on. If you are writing it, I realize this question is a bit longer, so it's obviously going to take a little bit more time. So just one more minute and then we'll move forward if I don't get any responses. Hey, Sandy. Good to see you too. It's been a while. Sandy's been coming to all my live feedback lessons on Zoom for a long time, but she's busy these days. So we used to see each other several times a week, but that's been reduced somewhat. Right. Sandy, some individuals claim that harsher regulations are needed to improve the safety on roads because traffic accidents all over the world bring about a great number of severe injuries on a daily basis. Wow. Yeah, good job. That's a long sentence. It's rare to see a student construct a sentence of that length with no grammar errors. You're after making massive improvements. Well done. Yep, that's that. You cannot improve on that answer. That's really, really good. Right. Thanks, Andy. Ayush, nowadays, okay. I was going to say it doesn't say nowadays in the question, but it doesn't change the meaning, so that's not a problem. Uh, vehicular accidents are causing life-threatening injuries. It doesn't say life-threatening, although we would assume if they're serious that, but it doesn't necessarily say that in the question, so you don't want to change the meaning in any way at all. So again, like we were saying in the lesson yesterday, if you cannot think of a synonym for serious injuries, it's okay to just copy that from the question. Life-threatening injuries to people worldwide. Good. And that has led them to believe that strict regulations need to be introduced, maybe, instead of need to be there. That's not right. So need to be introduced for better road safety. So overall, that's a good paraphrase. Just a small mistake there. But also, when you say, let me go back here, this part, and that has led them to believe. You've used a pronoun, but that doesn't refer to anybody. So, well, it does. It refers to the people who have been in car accidents and have life-threatening injuries. But the question doesn't say it's the same people who are in the accidents that want stricter laws. It's not necessarily the same group. So the way you've used them makes it sound like the people who want stricter laws are the same people you just talked about in the life-threatening accidents. So some small mistakes there, but overall it's well communicated. Sandeep. Okay. So Sandeep was in my lesson, my live feedback lesson yesterday as well, and Sandeep explained that when she's typing on the computer, she types quickly, so the punctuation mistakes we see here with like the full stop and the first word many starting with a small m, that she knows how to do that. But regardless, first word many should be a capital M. Many individuals, that should be plural. Globally, so many individuals globally believe that strict laws should be implemented. Now, it doesn't say strict laws, it says stricter. So that's a comparative in the question. I'll just show you here. It says ER. So it means to make it, well, you know what it means, to make it more stricter. So that you haven't included that aspect of the question in your paraphrase. And they cause serious incidents every day. As they cause serious incidents. Yeah, that's good. You've actually condensed the whole thing down and included all the information. So that's well done. Hi, Alida. Globally, accidents on roads create lots of severe injuries daily. Because of this, there is a belief that stricter laws are needed for improving road safety in general. That it's not specific road safety. So, if we're talking about road safety in a specific country, we could say like, the road safety in Cambodia. But this is road safety in general. It's not specific to a certain place, so we don't use the. But besides that, that's another very well written paraphrase. Salik, hello there. I have speaking on Tuesdays. I have a live stream for speaking on Tuesdays. I'll be publishing the new. It's the same time every week, but I'll be publishing it's the announcement, the post to show what time it is. I'll be doing that tomorrow, so you'll see that on YouTube tomorrow on my channel. Naluka, traffic accidents have become one of the major issues around the world. No. Now, this is important. You cannot change the meaning like that, and you cannot just talk about traffic accidents in general. You don't want to lead in and talk about traffic accidents. You want to say exactly what the question said. So it didn't say it's a major issue. It didn't say what it did was talk about the number of incidents. So causes many serious injuries. You have to say that. Don't change that. That's important. So to continue your paraphrase, due to this, some people believe that some laws are needed to improve road safety. And again, that's not the same thing. So by saying stricter laws, as it says in the question, stricter laws, that implies there are already laws, but those laws are not strict enough. We need new ones that are more strict than the current ones. But the way you've written the sentence, it sounds like there are no laws at the moment, and then we should have some laws. So that's changed the meaning. So small mistakes, not perfect accuracy, but all over it's still quite clear what the question's about. Samika, globally, traffic accidents cause a lot of serious injuries. Good spelling of a lot is incorrect. You need to be careful. You've used a comma and then with because and a capital letter with B. Run that through Grammarly. That'll fix those mistakes for you. Because of this, some people think stringent laws are needed to improve safety on the roadways. Good. Yeah, very good. Gia Go, I believe this is your first time here. Welcome to the lesson. Many people nowadays is one word, Gia, are involved in road accidents. So you don't use with plural accidents like that. Firmer laws, those words don't go together. That's not a strong collocation. So stricter laws, or what did Samika just say? Stringent laws, that's a good one. To prevent further accidents on the road, such as speed limits during rainy days, wherein roads are slippier. Okay, good. Oh, hang on. Wait. No, don't include in your paraphrase. Excuse me. Sorry, I read that. I didn't process that properly. In your paraphrase, you don't want to add extra information. So it's always the paraphrase. You want to change some words. You don't want to change the meaning. You don't want to add extra things. You don't want to remove anything. So like when it said stricter, you still have to have stricter, more strict, more severe, something that's the same meaning. You cannot reduce it to just strict laws. It has to still be stricter laws. And the same way, it didn't say anything about rainy days or slippy roads in the question. So in the same way, you cannot take anything away. You also should not add anything extra in your paraphrase. So it should remain the exact same meaning. Ayush, would using severe as a synonym for serious been a better option? Severe is perfect. Yep. Severe is completely fine. Hi, Dorothy. Good to see you here. Mohaminul. I'm surely saying that wrong, but welcome to the lesson. There is a presumption in society that restricted laws can reduce accidents which are happening daily. You are a very common mistake. You are trying to show that you have a wide range of vocabulary by using words that you cannot use. So I can just see here presumption, restricted, but basically those two where you think it's going to give you a higher score, but you're using them inaccurately, so it's actually going to result in a lower score. it's difficult to understand what you've said, but now I can't be 100% sure, but it does look like you have the English ability to communicate that idea much clearer than you've done. It's a common mistake that candidates make. So don't try to show off, try to communicate. Focus mainly on communication in the test and don't take any risks with vocabulary. Hey, Sanya. All around the globe, accidents can be fatal. Fatal is Fatal, but the question didn't say that, so we shouldn't say that. So we shouldn't change it. All day isn't the same as every day. Strict laws can be made to improve the safety of roads as per the opinion of many people. So spelling is something that you'll definitely need to work on. Opinion and fatal are two words here, but it's going to hurt your score, and it could damage like your listening score as well. Even if you get the answer right, but this, like, you know the correct answer, you know the word, but you spell it incorrectly, that'll be wrong. That'll be marked as wrong in your listening test. So spelling is something that you definitely need to work on, Sonia. Big B. Big B, 1, 2, 3. Nowadays, many serious injuries are happening by traffic accidents. Nowadays, many serious injuries happen due to traffic accidents. So it is believed that stricter laws would be useful, because it's hypothetical at the moment, would be useful to improve road safety. What can be the synonym of stricter? So we had that already. More stringent, more severe. Or, as I always say, if you don't know one, just use strict again, and that's fine. Chia, you're very welcome. Yes, absolutely. But the thing is, Sandeep, this is a good question. Let me address this. Can someone get a band 7 or higher by not using fancy vocabulary? And the thing is, fancy vocabulary is vocabulary you cannot use. You know, like, let's say when you were a beginner student, and I'll just go by this CEFR, CEFR levels. So we got beginner, elementary, pre-int, int, upper int. So when you were a beginner, if you heard somebody who's a pre-int, that sounded like they were using fancy vocabulary. Then when you're a pre-int and you're using it yourself, it doesn't seem fancy. It just seems like they're just words that you use to communicate. And that's kind of the way that it comes, as like impressive, fancy vocabulary. It's basically just words that you can't use properly. So when somebody else uses it, it sounds impressive. But when you're using the words that are just communicating clearly, it doesn't feel impressive when you do it. But somebody who's at a lower level of English than you would think that's impressive or would think that's fancy. So a lot of it is perspective, in that they seem fancy because you can't use them yourself, not because there's anything special about the words. So I would say it depends on your level. If you're a band 7 level and you try to use like fancy words, which is what a band 8 student would use, that'll bring down your score. So it's all about improving your vocabulary before you get to the test. And when you're in the test, using your current level, your current ability to communicate as clearly as possible. So it's not that you can go into the test and pretend to be a higher level. You can just be the level you are. So clear communication more than anything. Good question though. Hey, Bravery. Hey, Dominic. Good to see you too. You're very welcome. Samika. Hi, Sushma. It's Diwali. Well, hope you're enjoying the festival, and no problem at all. Well, you're here now, so I don't know, does that mean you can or you can't, but I hope you're enjoying the holiday anyway. Hope you're enjoying the festival. Okay, so that brings us to the next part of the lesson. So for this question, it is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? Because it says to what extent, we're either going to say, sorry, so when it's agree or disagree, we're going to say agree and give two ideas to support our opinion, or disagree and give two ideas to support our opinion. However, because it says to what extent, that small little word, if you were to say, and it seems unnecessary to say the least, but if you were to say, I agree, that's not enough. You have to say, I completely agree, because the extent is the rate, like 0 to 100% to, what extent. So you'll say, I completely agree or I completely disagree. What I would be interested in, rather than just going, because I did this question with some students a few weeks back, and they struggled a little bit. So what I would like, rather than just generating two main ideas like we normally do, what I would like you to do is try to give me some main ideas for why someone, not necessarily you, some ideas why someone would agree, some ideas why someone would disagree. So normally I like you to put together the exact main ideas that you want to use, but I'd like to hear a broader range of ideas today. So don't limit it to I agree because A and B. Put in agree one or two ideas, disagree one or two ideas, and then we'll get a better scope of what's relevant or not, because I have seen my students struggle with this already. Okay, so that's what I want you to do now. Tell me, what main ideas can we use for this question? Hi, Mia. Thank you, Sandeep. Hi, Arif. I can say Arif a lot more easily than I butchered your first name there a second ago. Okay, good to have you here, Arif. Hi, Salvi. Welcome to the lesson. Hi, Nayan. Bangladesh is well represented here today, so. Hi, Afifa. You made it a bit earlier than normal today, huh? Good to see you here again. Okay, so I have some ideas coming through. If you are not finished, please continue. Share them in the comments when you are ready. but I'm going to start giving feedback now just so that I can get through everyone. Sandeep, I disagree because more laws will create confusion. That's good. And people will not feel independent. So it's a spelling mistake there with independent by creating more and more laws. Is the second one, it doesn't feel like it's related to road safety. It has to be within the context of the question. So it has to be specific and it has to be relevant. So it is specific, but it's not relevant. The first one is fine, presuming that when you develop it, you're going to talk about some kind of confusion related to driving. But it has to be related to road safety. So I'm worried the first one might not, and the second one really doesn't look like it's related to road safety. So just be careful. It has to be related to the context of the question. Nyan, I regularly watch your video. Great. Good to hear. I hope you're getting a lot of benefit from those. Ayush, agree. Human tendency is less responsible when given the opportunity. So Ayush, that's not as clear as you normally write. That there's a lack of clarity in this idea. It's a language mistakes. So it's going to have to be humans tend to be less responsible. Humans tend to be less responsible when given the opportunity. They're given the opportunity to be less responsible. No. I'm not sure how this. I don't know how this connects to the question. I think there's a language error for me anyway that I can't really understand what the idea is. So I'm not able to comment whether it's relevant or not. If you want to rewrite it, I can look again. Arif, therefore, I totally agree with the context. I believe strict rules are needed for the betterment of society. Okay, so Arif, I can tell that you're new to the IELTS test, or at least you haven't completed my lessons on task 2. So if you scroll up to the first comment or maybe the second comment, I posted a link to a set of lessons on how to write task 2 essays. I'd advise you to complete that because I believe strict rules are needed for the betterment of society. We need 2 main ideas to say why you think we should have stricter rules, why you agree with that. But also it needs to be in the context. So the betterment of society, that's not related to the question, but also it's very vague. So the 2 things you need for an appropriate idea, they need to be relevant. Your ideas need to be relevant and specific, and your idea is vague and irrelevant. So I'd really recommend you complete those lessons. They'll help you a lot. Ishivamjashi, there should be a rule of odd even number cars. I don't know what odd even means, so I'm not sure what you're getting at there. I mean, one day odd number cars will drive and one day even number cars will drive. Moreover, numerous accidents happen because of lots of traffic. So this is this isn't we don't need you to suggest what the stricter laws are. So we don't need suggestions as to what laws should be introduced. What we need is you to explain why you agree that there should be stricter laws. So you're kind of coming at it from the wrong angle there. You need to work on spelling as well and punctuation and vocabulary. Do you know what? I'd say actually vocabulary and spelling first would be the best way to go. Sandeep, I completely agree because stricter laws will decline the number of cases of deaths. No, because that it's not. You don't need to explain what stricter laws will do. The idea is it's going to reduce the number of injuries, so that's the outcome. But you need to explain how that outcome will come about. So if we introduce new laws, you're not explaining what happens when we introduce new laws. You introduce new laws, there will be fewer accidents. How are those two things connected? So that's your explanation. I introduce, say I'm the government, I introduce more strict laws, and then 6 months later there's a decrease in the number of accidents. How does one how does one lead to the next? How do these stricter laws result in fewer accidents? So that's what you need to say. Not say there will be fewer accidents. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. But how will that happen? And the same problem with your second idea. Marvik, I agree because some individuals, that needs to be plural, should be follow the traffic laws to avoid injuries every day. No. So it's not that everybody should excuse me. Everybody should follow the traffic laws. But if everybody followed the existing traffic laws, then there would be fewer serious injuries. So that it's how are stricter laws going to affect that? So this isn't really in the context of the question is the problem here. This is actually irrelevant. Sandy, disagree. Teaching the importance of road safety should be encouraged more. You need to change this a little bit. So we don't need stricter laws. Well, why don't we need stricter laws? Well, because education would be more beneficial. So it's an explanation. You're trying to say that we shouldn't have stricter laws. We don't need stricter laws, or stricter laws won't work. So by disagreeing, you're saying that there's some reason why they won't work. Or coming at it this way would be educating people would have a better outcome or would be more beneficial. So your main idea is fine, but you need to phrase it more in the context of the question so that it's directly responding to what you're agreeing or disagreeing with. Second one, it won't work effectively for habitually dangerous drivers. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Just be careful with that one, Sandy. And it depends how you go about explaining that. So, what I would worry about, is it specific? Is it specific enough? So when you go to explain that, are you going to explain how that means they won't work, or are you going to make a list of other ideas? So, I'm looking at it now. I think you're right. I think that's fine. Looking at it more closely, I think that's fine. Noyan, I completely agree with that government. I completely agree that you don't need with that governments, plural, should impose stricter laws to upgrade road safety. Upgrade doesn't work there either. So few grammar, few vocab mistakes you can work on, but the meaning itself is actually clear. Okay, Dominic, I completely agree with this because I not only impact directly to human financial to force people to concentrate on their activities. That's very unclear, Dominic. I'm not sure what you're trying to say there. You'll have to just kind of tone down the vocabulary you're using. Just use more more common use vocabulary that's more common to communicate more clearly. That's what I'm trying to say. But also it makes people have stronger responsibilities while they're driving on the road. So it makes people more responsible. I'd say you might be able to go a bit more specific. Why does it make them more responsible? Just be careful, that's a specific idea. When you go to explain that, are you going to give a list of reasons why it makes them more responsible, or are you going to explain it? So just be careful with that. Because it not only impacts directly to human financial to force people to concentrate. I'm still not sure about that first bit. Big B, is that your real name? Big B? Or is that a nickname? I'm just curious. It's got nothing to do with IELTS. I'm just curious. Okay, I agree, because if the laws are stricter, people will be forced to drive safely and carefully. So again, that's the outcome. And that's the same thing that I was talking to Sandeep about earlier on, was we don't want to say what the outcome is. Oh, excuse me, I'm after losing my place here. Where have I gone? Oh, I'm right. Sorry, I'm after confusing myself. This is the right one. Okay. So you're saying to reduce, think of it this way. What are you saying? I agree that we should use stricter laws to reduce the number of injuries because it will reduce the number of injuries. That's essentially what you're saying. But it can't be that. It has to be, we should reduce the number of injuries by introducing strict laws because, and then how is that going to work? So you can't say we should do it because it'll work. We should do it because you're kind of looping back. You're taking your idea and just going straight back on top. So stating the outcome, the desired outcome, is not an explanation. Yep, that's no problem. No problem whatsoever. Hey, Jarvin. Good to see you. Yes, because that ties straight back into the question that was asked. So your main idea was right, but you just have to kind of corner it so that it's within the context of the question. Yours was a little bit outside, and it wasn't directly related to the question the first time. But yeah, that's better. Sanya Tamer, I completely agree with the idea that the government should make stricter laws to save the lives of people in road accidents. So you need to work on plurals. Some mistakes with plurals there, but yeah, that's all clear. Okay, so we did have a few relevant ideas, so that's going quite well. I'm going to pull out I'm just going to pull up the paragraph that I wrote for this. So that's the paraphrase. We don't really need to look at that. You all had paraphrases already. So what I said was, I completely disagree with this because people already ignore that reckless driving can result in fatalities, and previous efforts to reduce accidents with stricter laws have failed. Okay. So what I want to do is, let's pull this one. Okay, can we see that clearly? Is that okay on the screen? Let me make that a little bit bigger for you here. Okay, you can see that. That's clear, right? Okay, so I want everyone to focus on the idea, on my idea. We'll learn more from, because I think this is this might be a little bit trickier to develop than most. So I want everyone focus on my idea. I don't want to see development of the ideas you generated. I want to see development of this idea on your screen. So tell me, how can we develop this idea? How would you explain that? How would you exemplify that? So everyone is focused on this one. People already ignore that reckless driving can result in fatalities. Hi, Eric. Good to see you here. And Hamidra's, I firmly agree with this deed. Deed is not an accurate word to use here. Because as the laws are stricter, drivers will be more careful in driving. So don't receive too, yes, will be more careful when driving so as not to receive fines, and therefore roads will be safer. Yes. So they're going to drive more carefully because they don't want fines. That's good. Keep in mind that we need two main ideas. So that's one suitable idea, but you need two. Awareness programs must be launched. That isn't really related to the context of the question. It is about road safety, but it's not about if we should introduce stricter laws or not. So like Sandy had earlier on, if you wanted to say we shouldn't introduce stricter laws because what we need is awareness programs, you can connect it back to the question in that way, but the way you've written it doesn't show any connection to the direct connection to the question. How are you with developing this idea? If it's not clear how to do that, please tell me, because I'm just looking at the idea and you might need to know what I'm thinking to do it. It might not be the best choice. So can you just let me know in the comments if that's okay? You've no idea. Sandy, thank you. I just realized you kind of need to know what I was thinking to develop it. So it wasn't, there was a bad one. Can I just get one or two other people? Just let me know. I don't want to stop you in the middle of it if you're able to do it, okay? Difficult. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's on me. I should have chosen a better idea to develop. Basically, my point was, if people are going to ignore the fact that it will kill them, they'll ignore any law. That was the point I was making, but that's not completely clear. I'll share the sample answer with you a little bit later, and you'll see that it all makes sense, but that doesn't really fit together. You had to know what I was thinking. Okay, so let's take this one. Let's swap this around. Okay, apologies for that. That was confusing on my end. Let's take Hamidriza's here. So I completely agree with this because people will want to avoid the fines. There we go. There. That's very logical. That's very easy to understand. Okay. So if you had started on the one I gave you, that's fine to continue. And I'll take a look at your response. But I do understand why you wouldn't have been able to develop it, because you didn't know what I was thinking. They haven't seen the traumatic result of reckless driving, and their coincidence. I'm not sure if you know what coincidence means. It's definitely not been used correctly there, Hamid Riza. Ayush, people do not pay attention to the consequences of reckless driving unless someone in their close-knit suffer from an accidental injury. Yep. That was a good stab at it. Looking forward to my sample answer. Good. Yeah. Well, you'll have it soon enough. Nayan, now you're using the auxiliary verb am incorrectly. Because it's just present simple. I agree, or I firmly agree with this, because before imposing strict laws, so that's plural mistake, we need to educate, that's present not past, our people who intend to drive frequently. Yep. So that was the same idea we saw already, which is fine. Your grammar, you're going to need to work on auxiliary verbs, tenses, plurals. So grammar, focusing on your grammar for now, Nayan, would help you for sure. The consequences. Yes. Yes. That makes sense. Yep. Sandeep, I skipped your answer. I don't think I did, Sandeep. I have this one here. Is this it? This must be what you're referring to. I completely agree, because stricter laws will decline the number of cases of deaths and make society safer for every age group. So that's the outcome. Decline the number of cases of deaths. So, I mean, we want to introduce, the reason we want to introduce stricter laws is because we want to reduce the number of serious crimes. So the reason cannot be to reduce the number of strict crimes. That's why we're doing it. So we need to explain how it's going to work. So that's irrelevant. And make society safe for every age group. That's too vague. That's too vague, I'm afraid. So is that the answer that I missed? I didn't miss it intentionally. Okay. Let me find myself now. Sandeep. Okay, you're all looking forward to the sample answers today. Good. Maravik, people should always pay attention to the road when they're driving to prevent fail. No. So that's what people should do, but the problem is that people are not doing that. And we want to introduce stricter laws to try to make them do that. So how will the stricter laws work? Or if you disagree, why will the stricter laws not work? Sandeep. Explanation. If that's not the one, then it didn't show up on my screen, Sandeep. That does happen on occasion where you'll post it, but it doesn't come into the platform for me. But I scrolled up, the one I showed you was the last one on the screen. So I'm afraid it didn't come through to me. I strongly disagree with this point, because there are sufficient laws regarding road safety. Well, if they're sufficient, then there wouldn't be many serious injuries every day. So that kind of contradicts. Yeah, that doesn't match. The word sufficient isn't suitable here, because the question just talks about those serious injuries. Improving discipline in driving is rather important than implementing new laws. So how are you going to improve discipline in driving? So that's too vague. The first one is irrelevant. The second one is too vague. How are you going to improve discipline? The more fines will be. So the higher fines are, that's what you're trying to say. The higher fines are, the more drivers will be conscious about their driving habits, and as a result, unsafe driving habits will reduce noticeably, leading to safer roads. Yeah, you'd want to kind of come at it more directly and say the people, they don't have enough money, or they'll feel like it's a waste of money, or they want to avoid having to, pay the fines, something like that. So again, as you're saying, they'll be more conscious about their driving habits. That's kind of the outcome, really. So you're saying we'll introduce the fines because there are fines. Try to come at it more directly than that. Shashank, throughout the world, traffic accidents. So you're right back at the start, Shashank, are you? Yep, that's good. Still waiting for the sample answer. It's coming, it's coming. I just want to see your ideas first. Road carnage, which occurs by delinquent drivers. Again, that's the outcome. That's not the reason. And then again, that's the outcome. So you're saying we should reduce the number of road accidents by having stricter laws because it will reduce the number of road accidents. I'm sure when I say it, when I spell it out that way, I'm sure you can see why it's not appropriate. Okay, how about, normally I just share the sample answer at the end of the lesson, but how about today? I'll share it with you. You can have a quick look and ask me any questions you have about my sample answer. So, there's a link for my live feedback lessons. So those are the ones that I have on Zoom that I was talking about earlier on. So if you want to sign up for those, they're free, and they're for speaking, academic task 1, general task 1, and for task 2, and they're held on Zoom. So just click on the link, sign up, and then I send out the schedule every Monday, and then the sample answer is there. So click on the sample answer, have a quick look, and see if you have any questions for me. Sandeep, in the live feedback lessons, I used that question already in the live feedback lessons, and the students did struggle a bit. And in fact, the only one that I recall, there's one idea was to avoid fines, and the other one was to avoid getting your license revoked. So they're quite similar. So I think when I was planning my essay earlier on, I was looking at both sides. Of course, I was considering should I agree or disagree, and trying to think of two main ideas. And I just in this instance, I found it easier to disagree. And it's complete. It's like none. I don't agree. Actually, I don't really have much of an opinion on it. But the ideas in my essay, those are not what I really believe. Those are just, I need two relevant specific ideas. I have them. It doesn't matter if that's what I think or not. I've done what I need to do for the sake of the IELTS test. Dominic, because they do not want their styles to be affected by any means, which is suggested to keep a safe trip. Sorry, Dominic, I'm not sure what that means now. I'm not sure. Normally I can understand you very clearly, but today, for some reason, I just can't pick it up. They are subjective to warnings of government about the obligated. I think you're just trying to use vocab that you're less. I know you're working on vocab, so maybe you're just trying to use some of that new vocab that you've been learning, but you're not using it accurately at the moment, and you normally communicate much more clearly than that. Can we use contractions in task 2? Yes, you can. Is it really the best idea of teaching from India? What does that mean? Still waiting for the sample answer. Is it really the best idea of teaching? Sorry, Ishi Van Joshi, I'm not so sure what you mean there. Can you just rephrase that? I'm happy to answer your question. Can we use don't instead of do not in task 2? Yep, that's no problem. Lida, these dangerous drivers cause traffic accidents when they choose not to follow existing laws. I'm not sure what that's related to. As these incidences are happening, even when they are fully aware that there are laws to obey, there will be no difference after stricter laws are introduced. Yep, that makes sense. Arif, I completely agree with this, because if there are more fines, there will be more seriousness on driving and less accidents. So I think, like, when you're talking about fines, basically what you want to say is people will try to avoid the fines. So to avoid the fines, they will be more careful on the road. So that's essentially what you want to say. I know that's what you're getting at, but really the vocabulary you're using to communicate that isn't completely clear. Sandy, I completely agree with this, because people will want to avoid the fines. Good. Of all types of punishment, financial ones, but one doesn't really go with punishment. Financial, no, you're going to have to change that, because one I'm not sure now, but what would you say instead? Just use fines again, I think would be better. Of all types of punishment, fines are more likely to work effectively. This stems from the fact that almost every individual is unwilling to spend their money on fines, which will not be spent unless they violate the laws. So that's a bit confusing, the which will not be spent, where you've placed that. Unwilling to spend their money on fines, which they will avoid by following the law, would be more clear. In Korea, for example, it has been reported that many drivers are trying not to violate the laws because they do not want to spend their money on the levies. Yep, that your example is kind of like you're just kind of repeating what you said in the explanation and saying it happened in Korea. So just say something like, Korea introduced higher fines, and that resulted in fewer road accidents, something like that. Would be better, just not to make it sound like you're repeating. Sorry, Eric, I'm talking to Sandy here, just not to make it look like you're just completely repeating the explanation. No, not for this question type, Eric. When it just says, to what extent do you agree or disagree, like that, you just say, I agree, and then explain why you agree, or I completely agree and explain why, or I completely disagree and say why. You don't need to mention anything about the other side. Dominic, no problem. Ayush, in question, serious injuries are mentioned. It does not talk about deaths. Yes. All serious injuries would not lead to death. Correct. So is it appropriate to develop the idea around deaths? So you would talk about those specific types of injury. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. No. You need to avoid simple sentences. Because you'll see in the lessons I shared with you at the start of this video, there are lessons on grammar and the different structures. So there's basically there's simple, compound, then there's complex and compound complex. you need to use a variety, but it doesn't have to be every sentence is a complex sentence or anything like that. But for 7, I would avoid simple sentences. You'll see it there. Ishivamjashi, I was saying, it is best way of teaching because everyone is able to ask their problem as well as they can share their ideas. Lots of love from India. Oh yeah, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. In both bodies to refute the stricter laws. Yeah. So that's just one side. I completely disagree, and then 2 reasons why I completely disagree. Good. Now, Gia, with the busy world we live in, many of us could encounter traffic accidents that would cause severe injuries. So I'm not sure what paragraph this is supposed to be, but it doesn't, like, the content of an introduction, the content of a body paragraph, the content of a conclusion, they're very specific things that you need to include. And that sentence doesn't belong in any of those paragraphs. So again, referring back to those lessons that I shared at the start, you'll need to complete those so that you do understand what to put in each in your answers. Personally, I totally disagree with other people's point of view in implementing stricter laws are important for enhancing road safety. First, traffic accidents cannot be prevented even if there are. Gia, I'm sorry now, but I'm just confused. I'm reading the words, but I'm not, like, I don't understand the sentences. So this is either one of 2 things. Either you're trying to use vocab you can't use, and the fix is to just focus on communicating clearly. Don't worry about trying to get a high vocab score. Or you need to just actually work on your general English. So I would say for you, studying vocabulary and studying grammar would be your main focus at the moment. Samika, you're very welcome. To avoid fines, yes. So if they want to avoid fines, they can't afford the fines, whatever. So that's the key part there. Yep. Strong punishment such as lifetime imprisonment for particularly fatal accidents must be imposed to reduce traffic accidents. So Kanchana, we talked about this earlier. You don't want to suggest which laws. You want to say why you think there should be stricter laws or why you don't think there should be stricter laws. So that suggesting what type of law or what type of punishment, that's not what we're looking for here. So you just need to make sure that you stick within the context of the question. And this is quite common, but if you don't respond directly to the question, that could be a band 4 for task achievement. If you're not talking about, and of course I know you're talking about traffic, you're talking about accidents on the road, you're talking, like, the question is about those things, but it's specifically about whether we should have stricter laws or we shouldn't have stricter laws. So that you need to be careful that you're actually talking about what you've been asked to discuss. Very important. Sandy. Okay, so your example, is that what we're looking at here? For example, the number of traffic accidents decreased after the Korean government introduced more stringent regulations. I would go back to the topic sentence, just make it more directly related to the topic sentence. So the question is about stricter laws, but our topic sentence is specifically about avoiding fines. And I mean, if it wasn't the IELTS test, I wouldn't pick you up on it and go, oh, well, what type of laws? What type of laws were they? What type of regulations were they? Nobody would do that. But in the IELTS test, you're trying to tie everything together. So the topic sentence is about fines. Are these people actually trying to avoid fines? Is this why there are the number of accidents decreased? So I would just change it to that they were avoiding the fines. to an increase in traffic accidents around the world. It didn't say that there was an increase in traffic accidents, did it? No, it just said that there are traffic accidents. It didn't say that there was an increase. It is believed by some individuals that strict laws are important to improve safety on roads. Stricter laws. But besides that, no, that's good. Okay. Hamid. I just looked a bit closer. I just recognize you there now. Hi, Hamid. Sorry, I just saw Hamid Riza. I thought that was your name. Now I know who I have. Hi, Hamid. Okay, body one. Recklessly are already ignoring the more severe consequences that it could kill them. In fact, people who drive dangerously are more concerned with the thrill of speeding or getting to an, yeah, good. In fact, that's fine. No, because it's fine. As long as you're using it accurately, it's fine. And you've used it accurately. The only one, you just want to avoid anything informal. It needs to be academic. And what you have there is perfect. So, yeah, that's fine, Hamid. Okay, so I think we've made good progress. And it's always good to look at a difficult question. It's, it's nice to get an easy question and then just do everything perfectly and you feel good about yourself. But you'll learn a lot more from, tackling a difficult question like that. You'll make more mistakes and kind of figure out where you're going wrong. But yeah, so that's pretty much it till next week. If you've already subscribed to my live feedback lessons, I will see you in the Task 2 lesson tomorrow on Zoom. And if not, I'll be back next week on Tuesday with the live stream for speaking. IELTS by Kulwant. Make people more disciplined. Sorry, give me a second. Now, I completely agree with this statement because it may make people more disciplined. Good. And they may take it more seriously if money is involved in it. Yeah, good. I'd avoid using may. Just say they will take it more seriously because you're just you're just putting your argument forward. And then I can decide to disagree with you. Saying it's a fact, you're saying it's what you believe. So you can say you can say will instead of may, because that's what you believe. And if I believe you're wrong, that's fine, but will would be more appropriate. Yeah, you too, Hamid. I hadn't recognized you at all at the start. Sandy, to illustrate, many Korean drivers are trying not to violate the laws because they do not want to spend their money on the levies, resulting in improved road safety, improved road safety or safer roads in many places. Good. No need for in many places, but it's fine. Lida, no problem. See you tomorrow. I disagree with this because the laws, that needs to be plural, that are in place have not worked effectively yet. So it will be, so additional laws will not make a difference, will not improve the situation. For instance, in Kenya, the drivers do, and I think you reach the limit of YouTube. It only allows a certain number of characters. Hamid, you're very welcome. Can we use will because somebody told me that how we can say that it will definitely happen? Well, you don't know if it'll definitely happen. You don't know. You definitely don't, but it's what you believe. So you say, if you're trying to convince me that's what will happen, and I say, no, that's not what will happen, but neither of us know. But that's the language we use because we're so sure. I know there's a thing with hedging, like it's called hedging, where you're definitely not wrong if you say may, but it's not about, we're not talking about, you're not communicating a fact, you're communicating your opinion, and we wouldn't, you make your argument stronger by just saying, well, as the traffic police enforces them. Let me just go back here. For instance, in Kenya, the drivers do not follow unless the traffic police enforce them to do so. Yeah. Good, that makes sense. Ayush, very welcome. I completely agree with this because people will want to avoid the fines. The levy charged by not following the road safety would not just cause them extra expenses, but also will cause them inconvenience. Inconvenience is vague. You'd need to say what inconvenience that you want to refer to. Maravik, no problem. Ifat from Bangladesh. We have a lot of Bangladeshi students here today. Welcome. We're just finishing though. we're just finishing up as you joined, but you can watch the recording anyway. You'll still get the lesson that way. Yes. When you're talking about your opinion, you can stop saying me. Yeah. Good. That just reminded me, was in Ash's comment reminded me, there's a scan, like in most countries, the traffic fine is the traffic fine. So I don't know, like in America, you get caught speeding, it's $50, whatever. But there's one of the Scandinavian countries where they charge you a percentage of your wage. So if you get caught speeding, they charge you. It doesn't matter how much money you make. The fine is a percentage of your wage. So if you make a lot of money, the fine is higher for you than if you make less money. So they use percentages instead of set fines, which I thought was interesting. And it's got nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with what we're doing here. It just popped into my head. Okay, so that's it. We're all done here today. Hope you've got a lot out of the lesson, and make sure if you have any friends, family members, if you're in any IELTS groups or anything, make sure to share my lessons. Make sure to spread the word and get my name out there so that you can help me too. And yeah, if I don't see you tomorrow in the live lesson, then have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week in the live stream on Tuesday. Okay, bye-bye everyone. Take care of yourselves.